Yes, hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that leans into the fact that there are Celtic fans all over this great big planet, from Castlemilk to Carnlough, Maryhill to Melbourne, wherever you happen to be watching from. You're part of A Celtic World. And it's been pretty hectic here at A Celtic World Towers. We didn't know who was going to show up today, but our two brave heroes stepping into the breach are David in Bangkok. Hello, David.
Hey there, hi Gav, how are you?
Very well. And Anthony in Perth making a rare appearance on this evening.
Hi Gav, good to be with you. You're in a Paul and you got me instead, so there you go. That's
right, Paul is usually in this slot, but he's off watching some popular beat combo somewhere, isn't he? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, he's off to Melbourne, and I'll be heading over tomorrow morning to watch Oasis. So I'm flying out first thing tomorrow morning. So hence home to pack. But I thought, why not jump on and discuss last night or this morning, I suppose, and everything that's happened since I was on a Monday night. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Yes, as you say, so much has happened, and we haven't been one of those shows doing emergency podcasts. You know, the people must hear what we have to say immediately. I think the people can survive until the next scheduled show, which is today. So yeah, we have tons to talk about. So hello to everyone in the chat. How you doing all there? I'll just pull up a few hellos as we settle in. Smell like love. Oh, here's Monty doing his usual rundown. Dickie, Anthony and David. Good morning, gentlemen. Are you familiar with the Dickie reference, Anthony?
I'm not, but if it's a quick one, explain it. If not, well, I'll learn as I go along, I guess.
I look a bit like Dickie Attenborough in a very old film where he is a psychopath and sexual deviant, which is ironic coming from Monty, but anyway, let's move on. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I guess we're going to start off with the whole soap opera that's been going on before we get on to the game. So we're going to talk about Rodgers' resignation, Desmond's diatribe, and the new manager search and the interim scenario. And then if there's any time after that, we'll run through the Falkirk game. But so we've got to keep it pacey, I guess. So Rodgers' resignation. David, take me back to the moment when you saw the news. What were you doing at the time, if it's not too intimate?
Well, I was sleeping when it sort of initially happened. So, my wife woke me up, and the first thing she said was, "Rodgers has resigned." So that was about 6:30.
Well, hold on. Your wife was aware of it. Was the first thing she does is check Celtic news or something?
She's a paid-up member of the world-famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club, Gav. Despite coming from Cowdenbeath and half her family being from the other side of the divide, she's been. I can't say she's been well trained because she might listen to this and scalp me. But yeah. First thing was finding out about 6:30 in the morning. So then going through finding out about Desmond's rant. And it was all fairly. Yeah, it was a fairly interesting way to start the day.
Yeah, that was my experience largely as well, except absent the wife caring about anything of this nature. Did you wake up to that news as well, Anthony, and think, "What the hell's going on?" I mean, I was quite surprised, but then as soon as you rationalise it for a bit, you think, well, I shouldn't be surprised, But in the moment, I definitely was.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, he's one of the guys where you didn't think he would fall on his sword a second time after he kept saying over and over and over again that he was here for 3 years unless he was getting, or was it not canned, but whatever the expression was he used. But obviously, he got to a point where he felt he could no longer go on. And obviously injuries have started to mount up. 8 points, obviously at that point, behind Hearts in the league. And I obviously we'll get into it, but I dare say there was a conversation with Dermot that went a bit south, and here we are. But like I said, it's been a whirlwind 3 days really, because it was Tuesday morning I woke up and read it. So we're only Thursday night, so it's not even been 3 full days, and I probably feel a little bit like Martin O'Neill in a way, because by all accounts he had 10 minutes to decide whether he was coming back. But it is, it's good to have him back in the door, even if it is only for a little while. But you sort of you got a little bit of goosebumps seeing him come out onto the park tonight.
Okay, well, let's not make eyes at the new girl without at least acknowledging the relationship that we've just exited. How will you look back at Rodgers Mark II, David?
Yeah, I think with a lot of fondness. If you look at last season, we keep going on and on, but quite rightly, about being very, very close to beating Bayern Munich in the Champions League. For me, that was the highlight over the last few years. I mean, we've obviously had the quadruple treble, etc. and stuff, but the Bayern Munich night was so close to being absolutely historic for a generation. For all we criticised him this year about his tactics and the horseshoe of death, etc. I mean, we were averaging about 2.5 to 3 goals per goal season last season. Creating loads of chances, playing well. I think if you look at him, the people that he brought on, that he improved, your Maedas and all these people. I think he was probably a bit scunnered, like the rest of us, with the board and the lack of support he was given. I do think there was a lot of blame to be attached to him laterally. No matter whatever team we have, we should have still been able to beat Dundee. We should have still been able to score against Kairat in 210 minutes. But overall, it was a great manager for us.
Okay, Monty, I think someone has been at my gain button. It might have been me, actually, because I was painting this office earlier today. So if my microphone was very crackly, is it sorted now, Monty? To your.
It sounds better now, Gav. Yeah.
Could you hear it too? Oh dear. Okay.
Didn't have time for a sound check beforehand. Sorry, I just jumped straight in.
No.
I just sort of come on with David's point there. I think his tenure was successful. Unfortunately, I think Brendan Rodgers seems to have a bit of a life cycle as a manager. First season, second season. Well, first season it's usually very good. Second season, it sort of starts off very good and then starts to maybe tail off a wee bit. And then the third season, it unfortunately for Celtic in two occasions, it sort of started to go off the rails a bit. And that's something that, as a professional manager, he probably has to have a look at himself, because it's not just Celtic where that's maybe happened. I think at Leicester in his sort of third season, it started to go a bit pear-shaped there for him as well. So, and it's hard. And I think Gordon Strachan was the one that came out and said that the life cycle of a Celtic manager is about 3 seasons, because to be able to maintain that level and the amount of attention that's on you, 3 years is kind of your limit, and then you need to. He says if you're at a Diddy club, that 3 years is more than 3 years is fine, but at a club like Celtic, it's just too difficult. And I do feel in this season that teams had figured this out in terms of performances and our inability to score goals, which is partly to do with personnel, but unfortunately also a lot down to the tactics. As you can juxtapose that to what we saw this morning. But Dave's right. Very, very close to taking us to the next stage of the Champions League. We did quite well. We didn't sort of anticipate we were going to do what we did in the Champions League anyway, but we managed it. And I guess the main frustration at the board, and obviously, I dare say, Brendan Rodgers' main frustration is the inability for us to then kick on from that point. Because you really have to say that was probably the point where it all started regressing and going back the way. And unfortunately, not picking up the treble, and it just sort of probably just festered a bit over the summer, and then we've gotten to this point here. So, I don't want to you don't want to dismiss the last two, his first 2 seasons in his second stint. He's been Celtic's most successful manager. But obviously, again, he's left us on the lurch. And like I said, in steps Sir Martin and Sean Maloney.
Let me tell you how I view Rodgers' second stint. Just quickly before we move on, those matches in Europe against Leipzig and Bayern, particularly, were really thrilling. Real high points. You're so proud of the team doing well against European opposition. And we'll always have those, Brendan. But either side of that was just a long stretch of really drab football. In my mind, first season was very poor. Somehow managed to get it sorted in the end. Script through to the title. Against no opposition, really. And then, as you say, after the Bayern game, it's been drab again. So, I'm not Rodgers' biggest fan. I thank him for those moments in Europe, for sure. But I'm not sad to see him go. It's definitely the best thing for this season, if we're going to have any chance. So, yes, farewell, Brendan. All the very best to you. I was thinking about maybe playing a musical tribute to him, because I don't know where we're going to again, but I'm not really in the mood to listen to the Green Hoops of Celtic. Have you seen that one, Anthony?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Well, we'll play it another time anyway, once the dust has settled, but not today. I think we're too much to get through. This man?
So my Unskelper song will never see the light of day.
Oh, dear. The world's loss.
Sure is.
David, do you want to say a few words about this man, because nobody else is?
Well, I mean, I think for me, what was surprising was that he stuck with Celtic when Rodgers left the first time. He could have gone to Leicester. He could have left, a few times. So for me, the fact that he left along with Rodgers when Rodgers doesn't have another gig to go to, for me, it made it the statement by Desmond all the more ludicrous. The fact that it was just self-serving for one person. Well, why would John Kennedy leave if it was all just about Rodgers being self-serving? For all a lot of people criticise Kennedy if he was a defensive coach, etc. But every manager I think we had was highly complimentary about what Kennedy brought to the backroom squad. So I'm sorry to see him leave.
Anthony, let's move on then to
Dermot. I just wanted two very quick points on John Kennedy. One, I've got a conspiracy theory where I think he might have walked out when he wasn't offered the interim position, and he's maybe taken the huff and left. Hence the very poor PR response from Celtic, because it was basically like taking out the garbage in a jumbled sort of newsletter saying, "Oh yeah, he left along with all these players after being there for 27 years." So it's pretty poor. I mean, if he did leave in bad terms, you still put a press release out and you still do it properly. So that, I think, was poor. But I think there's maybe a little bit more going on. That's quite funny. But I think that's maybe what's happened. He's seen Sean Maloney coming in. And he's like, "What the hell? Like, what am I, chopped liver?" And then he's either been tarred with Brendan's brush, or he said, "You know what? I'm out of here," and he might pop up with Brendan's next gig, wherever that is. But anyway, moving on.
That's the alternative, as an either or he might show up at Wolves or West Ham or somewhere. Yeah. Did you say you had 2 points? Those are 2
That
points
was
in
2
one?
points. There was 2
Was it?
points in one. So,
Wasn't paying attention. Okay. All right. So Desmond's statement, this is according to the Cynic, is one that frames all the wrongdoings on Rodgers. They're trying to control the narrative and blame everything on the manager. Don't let them. They are guilty of complete incompetence and disdain for the support. Sack the board. Right. So, David, as everyone has said, this was totally extraordinary, this emotional outburst from a shareholder using the Celtic website.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it was madness. I think it just confirms that the power that he has at the club. He's not a majority shareholder. He's not an owner. He's not. The fact he put his name to it, and the fact that the club allowed him to put his name on it was ridiculous. I know that we gave the club stick the first time around when they made that that drunken statement at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and they didn't have the balls to put someone's name to it. But why not the CEO? Why not someone else? Why did it have to be Desmond? The first statement was the usual one about we thank Brendan for for his time and blah blah blah, the usual stuff you get. And then it was as if he was been on the drink and thought, no, I'm not having that, and he just ranted, and it was just so embarrassing. So I think one of the comments, I think one of the other podcasts was talking about whether or not Rodgers has signed a non-disclosure agreement, but because this was a statement made by Desmond, it wasn't made by Celtic Football Club, and because Rodgers was under contract with Celtic and not to Desmond, then the non-disclosure agreement wouldn't be relevant. So I hope that Rodgers does make a statement. I know probably we'll want this thing to just sort of fade away and for Celtic to to win the treble and go back to all great things. But I would like to hear Rodgers' side of the story in this one.
Yeah. Anthony, my question on this, if you see Mahesh's comment there saying that Dermot Desmond is entitled to a right of reply, doesn't this also shine a light on Celtic's failings, that they have no fucking proper means of communication with the fans? Like, if you have an errant manager saying things that are out of line, you nip it in the bud and you address it through your fan consultation mechanism or through, Celtic TV, where you do a monthly, review to the fans, things like that. Because Rodgers is the only person speaking, it has built up to this point where, it explodes in this sort of
the real question, OS Gavin, is where's Michael Nicholson? Like, he's your CEO. So surely any sort of statement saying that, Brendan did this, Brendan did that, should it not be coming from the club? Like, should it not be coming from the actual people who are meant to be in charge? You've got a structure in place, a CEO, a chairman, and they're silent. And as you say, as they've said, it's the biggest shareholder. He's not a majority shareholder. He's not the owner of the club, and he's been allowed to use Celtic's communication apparatus to launch this attack. Now, is it all true? No, it won't all be true, but the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle. So, I mean, until we hear Brendan's side of the story, and then we'll be left to make our own minds up. Has he signed an NDA? Well, he resigned. So why would you sign an NDA if you're resigning? If you've been sacked and you want your payout, that's different, because then you're like going, all right, well, here's your payout, but you need to sign this to shut up and we'll control the narrative. But if he has actually resigned, then surely he should be free to say whatever he wants, because he's no longer an employee. He's not getting paid anymore. You'd assume not getting paid anymore. So, there's bones of contention. I know Sky Sports went through all this morning on their coverage. And you would think that Dermot Desmond would have ran all that past a lawyer before he put that out to the whole wide world. You have to think that he's not that stupid that he would do that. Next thing is, there's conjecture around some of the points, like offering a contract. Now, is it a verbal offer a contract, or was it actually a piece of paper, like with terms on paper and put in front of Brendan Rodgers? Again, depending on who you're speaking to, it's a different interpretation of how you were offered a contract. Now, the thing about player recruitment, I think every Celtic fan would know that I don't think Brendan Rodgers was clamouring for the players that we've signed in the summer. He probably got to the point where he was desperate and was like, well, these are the players that have been presented to me. If I say no to these, I'll have no players. So yes, I agree to having them in the door, but it's not who I wanted. So again, you can pick holes in those comments. And then the last bit about how all the toxicity is because of Brendan. Yeah, again.
Well, he didn't say all the toxicity. It was worded carefully. He contributes. His statements have contributed to the toxicity, which is not untrue.
Yeah, but the gist of it is that, like, it's all his fault. That's he's not saying that, but that's the interpretation that the fans reading that go, oh, the board.
It's not the legal interpretation of his words, though.
I know. Well, I defer to your learned opinion there, Gav, but the general feeling amongst what I've read online for the last 2 days is that he's pointing the finger at Brendan saying, well, you started all this. And yeah, Brendan didn't help himself, because I agree, the Honda Civic comment's ridiculous. Like, no manager, it's Steven Gerrard all over again. You're just throwing players under the bus, and it ends up getting you nowhere. It ends up getting you sacked or having to resign, basically. So Brendan didn't help himself, but it takes two to tango. So there's, like I said, the truth in all this is somewhere in the middle. I have no doubt that Brendan Rodgers is an arrogant prick, and like he would be a pain in your ass to manage as as an organization. Having him as you take the rough with the smooth, and you can all be chatty and crack jokes in the press conference, but I'd say behind the scenes he could be prickly. So it requires strong leadership. But then again, I come back to my point. Michael Nicholson, where is he? Didn't put his name to that statement at 9:00 on a Saturday night. Didn't put the statement out here. So, for me, the sack the board thing, Michael Nicholson still needs to go. And there's mood music apparently the last few days that maybe he is ready to move on. And Peter Lawwell will resign because apparently he's not keeping good health or whatever. I don't know. That's alleged. I don't know if that's true or not. But if those sort of positions change, then you're sort of saying, well, that's a bit of the change that we as fans were wanting. But what also helps, Gav? Winning. Playing attractive football, playing attacking football, playing football that creates chances and scores you goals. And yes, it was only Falkirk, and yes, we're all at home, but it helps. It changes the mood inside the atmosphere. So
you have to answer this one, Anthony. Monty says, a bit harsh, Anthony. Do you know Brendan personally? What if I thought you were a prick? Would that be harsh? No.
You can think of my prick if you want. I don't care. You're some guy online, and I'm sure Brendan probably thinks the same thing.
Guy, it's Monty.
He probably thinks the whole of people thinks he's a prick, but he's got the self-confidence and the ego to carry it, and that's
there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt, Brent. I mean, I've said a million times on the show that BR's PR machine never stops. Everything that he says is for the betterment of Brendan Rodgers. And.
But I stress the point, Gav. It's not all his fault. You know what I mean?
Of course not. Of course not. That's not even what the statement says.
No. But it takes.
Simic just says this guy's a bit of a prick and he's causing a lot of problems and he's doing it all to look after himself and he's misrepresenting things. But it stops short of anything that could be actionable, if you ask me.
Yeah. There's ways of managing it, and it's been, the whole situation's been poorly managed. But like I said, it's a couple of transfer windows in the making to get to, it's Kyogo leaving and not being replaced, and it all just goes from there. So there's a moment of self-realization there for Monty. It's interesting. The things that happen on the Celtic world. Suddenly, people have these moments of clarity. David, are you having a moment of clarity there?
No. Usually Monty, I'm usually the butt of the jokes for Monty, but so Anthony's the prick and I'm the one that talks pish. So
okay.
and you are Dickie. So that's it basically.
Every claim made by the collective has been verified by the actions of Dermot Desmond and the silence of the hologram CEO that is Michael Nicholson. Yeah, the as you've touched on before, Anthony, this is just totally the castration of Nicholson. above all others, I would say.
The guys
Just shows you
get
he
paid
is
nearly
literally a cardboard cutout.
nearly
Well, not literally.
900,000 quid a year he's getting paid as Celtic CEO. Or what?
Just to be a stooge for a megalomaniac who wants to stay out of the limelight.
Yep.
Good job if you can get it.
Absolutely.
Huh? All right. Now, where are we in the chat? Let me see. Yeah, Desmond should always have been the target, should he not? Or at least the focus, I would have thought, for the Celtic Fans Collective, David. You know, sack the board. Yes, all right, fine. But, you know, like Dermot Desmond is the root cause, is he not, of all our woes? And if only someone had been asking that question loud and clear to the person who matters.
But you seem to think that like there's just a lot of sycophancy in the Celtic boardroom just to sort of appeal to Dermot's, you know, because you know if that board had a backbone, I'm sure they'd be asking questions like, why have we done this, like, you know, but it's obviously been allowed to happen because you know they see him as a de facto owner, and as fans, you know, we shouldn't have to put up with that, but here we are, and that's, you know, part of this. So the thing, you sack the board, but then if you replace them with more guys that are just pals with Dermot, you're back to square one again, aren't you?
Yeah, which is why it needs Desmond to have a change of heart and start realizing the business case for running like a Bruges or whatever, and you know, putting everything in place for that to happen, or other shareholders seeing what's going on and saying, look, we can't tolerate this anymore. This single shareholder having this excessive amount of power and running everything according to his whim and fancy. All right, new manager search. Well, first of all, David, Martin O'Neill's back in the house, so I mean that's a masterstroke in terms of PR. Makes everyone go all mushy inside and fall in love with Celtic all over again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but yeah, I mean, you know, I think we got all mushy inside about a 73-year-old guy who, you know, obviously was a legend, you know, magnificent manager, you know, in his time. I have to say, I thought the press conference the other night was embarrassing, cringeworthy. It was like your uncle sort of at a wedding, you know, just spouting nonsense, trying to tell a few jokes that clearly didn't work. And yes, Monty, that's me that's saying that. Yeah, I just found the press conference quite a bizarre sort of 30 minutes. But yeah, you know, as other people have mentioned in the chat, as long as you're winning, you know, you can't be wrong. You know, and it was a good performance last night. I don't know how much was influenced by Martin O'Neill or by Maloney. I would imagine that Martin O'Neill was probably more influential in our more direct approach. So I am very harsh, Monty. There you go. But no, it's good to see him. I'm not sure if he'll be here after the international break. I guess it all depends on how we do on Sunday. But yeah, I suppose we needed someone, and I also found it quite bizarre that, you know, he had 10 minutes to decide whether he wanted the job or not. Some of the statements he was making also in the press conference about, you know, the next manager is going to be a young, ambitious person. So whether that rules out Ange or whether it was just everyone in the universe is younger than Dermot Desmond just now, or than Martin O'Neill just now. So pretty much anyone can still be in line for the job.
Kieran McFadden's comment here. Apparently McKenna has a £5 million buyout from Ipswich for him and his backroom team. Thinks we should go for that. Question for Anthony is, if you were a manager of his ilk, would you be perturbed by Desmond's statement? Would you think twice about joining the club?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it sounded very toxic between Brendan and Dermot, but I mean, that can happen anywhere, can't it? I mean, obviously you just have to look at Notts Forest. I mean, that all went pretty pear-shaped for two managers in the space of like, what, 2 months or even that. So, it can happen anywhere. I mean, I think as a football manager, if you're successful and you're winning games, these sorts of problems don't rear their heads. It's when it all starts to go a bit pear-shaped. That's when home truths are starting to be told, and people's emotions take over, and it all goes tits up. So yeah, I mean, I say for a professional run football club, world class, everything we do. Was that statement from Dermot world class? Probably not. Is it going to be a barrier to him joining? No. I think £5 million buyout is a barrier. That's definitely an impediment. So it'll be interesting to see if the Celtic board's resolved. But I want to see some canvassing of some resumes and CVs. I don't want, with the greatest respects to Irish managers, I don't want every Irish manager being linked to the Celtic job because they're Irish. Greatest respects to the likes of Damien Duff and Robbie Keane and guys like that. But I think we need to be a little bit more forward thinking and really sort of open it up to Europe and see, well, who's actually the best candidate? And if that takes a little bit of time, that's okay. We've got Martin and we've got Sean Maloney in the door at the moment. And I dare say Sean Maloney's doing a lot of the legwork, and Martin's basically there for PR and sitting in front of the microphone. I have to respectfully disagree with you, David. I just thought he's got a certain amount of charm. I think he's Brendan with the charm, but without the arrogance. And I just think that at the moment, it's the tonic. It's the tonic that I think we all need. A wee bit of lightheartedness and a little bit of just, it's self-deprecating humor and just sort of, talking about himself a bit, just to take the pressure off the team, give the team a chance to regroup, find a bit of confidence again, and hopefully get back to winning ways. But he couldn't even tell you the name of the left back. He was trying to come up with his name, and he went the wee guy. And so bless him. I mean, he's 24 hours ago he was in London and whatever, and he was doing punditry and all that sort of stuff. So fair play. He said yes. He came back. Hopefully, like I said, he gets the stint's short, but it's just successful. He's here. He gets the train back on the tracks. We've already cut the deficit down to 6 points in the league, so get us moving in the right direction. Buy Celtic a little bit of time to get the right person, so that we don't have a Rangers situation where they fluff it, and they're going around in circles, sort of thing. So as long as they keep the train on the tracks in the meantime, then I'm okay with that. And like I said, there's a nostalgia factor, and I think in this day and age, nostalgia is important. So sorry, not so important, but it helps. It helps in these troubling times.
Back in terms of the new manager search, this is my question from Square Sausage Mick. Well, I mean, the question I asked myself: why would the Bruges manager want to give up his role and go to Celtic? Surely he'd be looking. That wouldn't be a step up for him in terms of, competitions he's involved in and all the rest of it. David, if you were the Bruges manager, would Celtic be an attractive option, or would you be thinking it's time to step up to one of the big leagues?
So if I was the Bruges manager on £1 million a year, and I was getting what is rumoured to be sort of treble that to be the Celtic manager, I would be fairly happy to move. I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion, sort of whether it's high end, whether it's this guy Marco Rose or Knutson, or however you want to pronounce that one, Gav, for future games. But I think there's a lot of questions where us as Celtic fans, we quite rightly think that, why is it not Xavi? Why is it not Iniesta? Why is it not Guardiola? We should be aiming high. And I think, as Anthony says, if we're just looking at the basis being, do you have an Irish passport? Then, we're letting a lot of the Celtic supporters down. So I think we're quite right to aim high, but I think we also have to be a bit realistic in terms of the shit show from the statement that Desmond made. Is that how likely would some of these managers be to actually take up the job?
I think that's a massive issue. And can I just tell you something, Anthony, before letting you come back in? I live in Malaysia, right? And Malaysian football has loads of ties with Australian football. One of my best mates is this ex-Socceroo. He played in the same international side as Ange. The current manager of the local team here is a product of South Melbourne. He worked with your man, what's his name, the Rangers fella?
Kevin Muscat.
Kevin Muscat. So he's all part of that gang. The international manager here is very close to Ange. And the whispers are that Ange has been approached and he is keen. He wants it at least. So when you talk about what good managers would be prepared to work for Desmond, there's possibly one who's not afraid to step into the breach. He knows the lay of the land, unlike these other names who might just see the Rodgers thing and think, that guy sounds like the Nottingham Forest owner or something. I don't want any piece of it. But it's all subject to further conversations, apparently. The first thing I was told was it's a done deal with Ange. And I was like, well, you've got to give me more than that. And now it's turned out to be, well, it's maybe not a done deal, but, he's keen and they're going to talk more. So I don't know what you can make of that. It might be complete nonsense, what I'm hearing.
Couple of points. The Celtic job, if you're successful, does probably guarantee a shot at the English Premier League at some point. It happened for, obviously, Rodgers the first time around. Happened for Ange Postecoglou. So if you're a manager in a European league, which isn't the top 5 league, then that is, it's like the same with the players. It's that potential stepping stone to get into the English Premier League. If that floats your boat, if that's what you want, because that's where that's where the big money is, right? So that's definitely a carrot that we have. And Celtic, it's a worldwide fan base. You say you're guaranteed European football, but you should be playing in Europe every year, so you've got that exposure to European football. So if you're managing a team that at the moment who doesn't have that, then again that's an upside, and that's important for your CV. Again, if you've got aspirations as a young manager to sort of make the step forward. My caveat to Big Ange is that we seem to have this thing at the moment where we seem to always look backwards before looking forwards. We've had Neil Lennon back a couple of times. We've had, obviously, Brendan back a couple of times. We've then got Martin O'Neill back a second time. So it's like, all right, Big Ange Mark II. Yeah, well, I mean, he's pumped up. He's superannuation balance. He's money's not really a problem for him now. I mean, he's probably earned more in the last 2 or 3 years than he has in his whole career. So we would have done anyway. So he's money wise, he's set. So it's really if he fancies the challenge. I could see Ange back, but I just think, is that not obviously it's the easy option for the board, but I just think, why not throw it out there and see what's available, see what's out there, and then at least they make a decision based on what's the best talent available. And if it is Big Ange, then great. I think most of the fan base would be all right with that. That'd be okay. But remains to be seen.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'd be nice to have a new face and something new and exciting to get used to. But certainly if Ange came back, those vast stretches of drab football that I lament under Rodgers would be a thing of the past. You look forward to every game. You're up for every game. You're involved in every game. You're actively watching it, not like scrolling on your phone waiting for an opportunity to arise, and then checking back to see what's happening. David, are you in a rush to get on with looking at the game?
Nope, no, I'm quite happy. Yeah, just you carry on, lads.
Or do you have anything else to say about the manager search? Have you got a name?
No, I think there's a few names that I wouldn't want. I think the Robbie Keane one, certainly Roy Keane, definitely not. But Robbie Keane, with his obviously links to the Israel job that he had and stuff like that, I think would just be a disaster. Obviously, if Ange comes back, you wouldn't say no. And these guys that from Bruges and from the Rose or whatever, potentially, sound pretty good. So, let's see. I think the next few games are important. Let's beat the Hunts on Sunday and see what we do next week in Europe. Probably will be. We could have Martin and Neil till say January or whatever. Because again, there's no transfer. There's no possibility to change the team till January anyway.
Okay. Well, let's get on with this then. This is the team that came out. Lots of differences here, I suppose. Changes that we as fans would have made, maybe. David. Trusty's back in alongside Ralston on the right side. So Rachi starts. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think after the Hearts game, the Donovan had a poor game. Murray obviously had a disaster. So Ralston and Trusty had to come back in. I think KT had played 3 games in a row, the full 90 minutes, when he hadn't played more than full 90 minutes for almost 2 years. So for him to play 3 games in a week, it was impossible. I think that he was going to play against Falkirk. And it was nice to see. Sirachi arguably man of the match last night. We can talk about whether or not we think that he deserves to keep his place for Sunday. But I personally think having KT and maybe Maeda down the left wing against them could be fabulous. But yeah, looking at the squad, I think it more or less picked itself. What I like to see was that he gave Engels a chance, and he realised that you're playing Forrest because he's an actual right winger, and it gave Negrin a chance to be more of a sort of number 10, if you like. I thought the team pretty much picked itself, but I was happy to see Engels get a start, and I thought he did quite well from it.
Anything you want to pick out, Anthony, there from the team? What was his masterstroke?
Oh, I think he obviously didn't have much time to really make any drastic changes, so it was only ever going to be some slight tweaks. And I think the 2 things to stand out was obviously the reintroduction of Austin Trusty, who had an excellent game this morning. So you really see that that's probably going to be the centre-half partnership moving forward. And then the other thing was the tweak of having Negrin playing more as that sort of number 10, so just off the striker, giving John Kenny some support, and creating chances, but obviously missing a few, but getting the one at the end. The issue with that is if you've got Negrin playing in that 10 role, then I don't see a place for Rio Hattati as one of your other midfielders, because it just puts too much workload on Callum McGregor. And I feel that Callum McGregor's rebound in form this season coincided with Arnie Engels playing beside him, because Engels really gives him a lot of running and helps pick the ball up in those positions to take some of the pressure off Calmac, because basically teams had figured us out before that. If you mark out Callum McGregor, then our easy out ball for centre half doesn't happen. But the message from the players this morning was to play the ball quicker, to take a chance, and like I said, to have that link up. You're almost playing with 2 up front in a way, but obviously Negrin's sort of dropping off a little bit at times, but that helped. And then and obviously having an actual left and right winger. So I really see moving forward that Maeda and Forrest will probably share that right wing responsibility, at least until the next transfer window, until hopefully we can get some reinforcements, and then you have the potential to redeploy Maeda on the left. And the only thing I would say is that if you are going to play with more of a 10 role, I was saying this on Monday night, I think Balakwisha could also play that 10 role as well, rather than being a winger. I don't think he's got the out-and-out pace for a Celtic winger, but I think he does have some nice touches, and I think maybe that 10 role would suit him. And then obviously the other obvious candidate who came off the bench was Luke McCowan, who was busy to the tail end of that game as well. So all in all, great performance. 2 goals in the first half, 2 goals in the second half. John Kenny would have done a world of confidence scoring those goals. Actually took them really well. His 2 finishes were great. Unfortunately,
Well, let's
not
get
the
into
hat-trick.
the stills and run through them in chronological order. 45 minutes gone, so better be swift on this. Scott Arfield had the first shot on goal. Saved. Nothing to say there. Negron gets into a good area and hits the post. Now, me saying Negron gets into a good area is something that's going to be repeated over and over again, which tells you something. I didn't watch the whole game, but he just kept popping up in all the right places, and he can do that. There's no doubt about it. He hits the post, and there's Fox in the box, Kenny, David, to finish it off. Are you excited by Kenny's performance overall?
Yeah, for sure. I mentioned last week that when I watched the European game, again I hadn't watched the game live, and all I got on the internet was how horrifically bad Kenny was. But when I watched the highlights of the game last week, he was making movements, he was running, he was trying to get in the right positions. So I felt there was a bit of a player there, and I felt yesterday that kind of shown that give the guy a future. He's not the answer. I'm not saying for a second he's the answer, but I don't think he's quite as hopeless as some people had kind of written him off a couple of weeks ago. Just quickly going back to the first sort of half hour. I mean, again, we didn't score until the 30th minute, so I think we were getting used to the new format and the new way of playing. But that first still that you showed, I don't know if that was the only ball that Trusty missed in the air, but the ball went through, and Armfield had a lot of time to pick his spot, and then just not long after that, Scales he sclaffed a couple of chances in the same move that could have quite easily ended up quite a good save by Schmeichel. So yeah, maybe that one. But I think that the overall did well, but I was delighted for Kenny to be getting those goals.
So yeah, that chance there was at 1-0, so that's what kept us in the lead. So that was a good save from Schmeichel. Was probably the only real sort of save he had to pull the whole game.
And this moment then, Anthony Negron again in a great position, pointing there. You can see him directing Ralston to play the obvious ball, which he does. Up to Negron, nods it down, and Kenny then nods emphatically into the corner. I mean, that was old school football. That was Martin O'Neill turning the clock back. That was like a goal from 15 years ago, isn't it?
My brother said that this morning. He said it was like watching Sutton and Larson. Like that sort of goal. Like they used to score goals like that all the time. The ball gets humped in, and Sutton would header it back, and then Larson would rise like a young salmon and pop it in the back of the net. So look, it's definitely not a Brendan Rodgers goal, put it that way, but it's effective. And it just kept Falkirk on the back foot. Like they were actually having to defend in the sense that there was balls coming into the box, they were under pressure, they had to try and clear it, and a lot of times they miscleared it, and we recycled possession easily, put them under pressure again. And I think that was probably the key. In the first half an hour, we had a couple of chances, missed our chances, some good chances, but you could feel it was building because we're just putting them under pressure. The other point about Kenny I would make is I do feel that he looks a lot better having someone playing off of him. So I don't think he's suited to being the lone striker and being very isolated. But when he's coming short and playing his little 1-2s with Negron, he played one with either Engels or McGregor. He played a couple of nice, neat little interactions. And I think you could probably get in Iheanacho doing a very similar thing when he's fit again. So if that's going to be your style of play, then you can definitely work with those strikers. Like I said, I agree with Dave. Not the be all, like they're going to be our final product sort of thing. But in the meantime, if we're creating those number of chances, then we will score goals. And that's unfortunately Negron's limitations, is that he needs probably about 5 chances to score one. But
yeah, well, for now. But if somebody can sort of get onto him and teach him how to score a bit better, you'd be laughing because the chances are coming thick and fast. Here was a lovely ball he played out to Tenecti. A very simple ball, but it's got to be weighted nicely. And then Tenecti hit the near post. I think the keeper had it covered. in that instance. Again, good work from Konechny. Gets 3 defenders around him.
Well, he probably had
crosses
the best.
the ball to,
He had the best chance of the game, probably at the early doors, where he had to hold the goal to aim at, and he scuffs it with the outside of his right foot, and it went out for a throw in. I mean, it was. Well, I said
I didn't see that.
That was right. That was right early in the game. That was a bad miss, but he regrouped, and he got his goal in the end.
Well, here's Nygren again taking up a good position, David, and all he had to do was find the finish, but unfortunately, high, wide, and not too handsome.
Yeah, the thing about this one was that just before it, Konechny had the ball, and instead of doing his one-trick pony cutting inside, he actually hit the byline, and then he brought it back, and it was a great pullback for Nygren. But again, by the time Nygren kind of got it out of his feet, he still could have done better, I think, than what he did. But yeah, I was delighted with Konechny for that one, at least showing a wee bit of difference. Just everyone expects him to just cut in. But when he hits the byline, it's nice to see something different, to see he's capable of doing something different.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then this next moment, Scales' interception sets up an attack. Ball breaks to who else but Nygren, who's in the centre circle there. And you can see at the left of your screen there, Kenny's already on the move. And he plays the ball up to him, and unfortunately Kenny just sails over. But nice, quick, incisive passing and moving, and no faffing around, up and at him.
Set the tempo for the second half, that. And yeah, like I said, it was a shame he didn't get his hat trick. I mean, that would have been amazing. But he was good for his 2 goals.
And here is Sorachi winding one up as the ball drops from the air. And keeper saves, and there he is on the spot, Nygren, to finish and get the goal that his performance deserved. Now, answer me this, because I didn't watch the full game. I'm assuming one of you did.
I did.
Or more than me. 2 things I saw. Only Nygren could score a goal and, assist or whatever else he did, and still have had a crap game, said somebody. So respond to that. And secondly, lots of people saying Sorachi was like the man of the match. Was he? Because I didn't see that much of him in the highlights.
I think the word I've seen around the traps is swashbuckling, because he was up and down that line the whole time, and then he mixed it up as well. So one minute he was like Kieran Tierney to the byline, cutting it back. Next minute he was Greg Taylor, cutting inside, acting like an inverted fullback. He just had it all in his locker, and he had an outstanding game, and really food for thought for the management team as to whether they stick with him for the cup semi-final, because based on that performance, you would say he didn't get the man of the match because they gave it to Kenny for his 2 goals. But I think a lot of people gave him the unofficial man of the match. And then to point about Nygren, I think the thing that upsets people is that the chances that he misses, like, he really looks awkward. Like, there was a one-on-one that he had with Bain, and he just basically tripped over the ball. It's like all he had to do was hit it, and he just sort of trips over the ball. So I think the frustration comes from he just doesn't seem to be a natural finisher, if that's a thing. He gets in the positions, like he's timing his runs, he's got the awareness, and I think he's definitely a player that needs to play in the middle, not out wide. But just when it comes to that natural finishing, if the ball's coming to him, you'd hope it comes to Callum McGregor, because he scored that goal against Hearts on the weekend. It was just clinical finishing. Nygren's not going to give you that, but through sheer work rate and chances, he'll get you goals and get you assists. So I think it's just the aesthetic. It's not nice on the eyes, but he gets the job done, and he's our top contributor. So goals and assists.
One thing that is nice on the eyes, I'm sure you'll all agree, is that someone's had a word with Nygren and told him how to celebrate or how not to celebrate, because now he's given it all this, fist pumping, arms in the air. No more of that. I can't hear you. Make some more noise, fans.
The other credit I'm ready to give to Nygren is that he squared up to Scott Arfield after Arfield clapped our players, and
got a card for it.
6 Celtic players getting involved. And I went, I have not seen that in a Celtic team in years. So that was good to see. And you have to wonder if that was Martin O'Neill saying, if one of your players gets hit, you all get up and get around them. And it was obviously Scott Arfield. He's a wanker. So, obviously, we're all going to go for him anyway. But yeah. And the other point I was going to make is that Scott Bain should be embarrassed for that third goal, because he should have caught that and he parried it out straight to Negron. So not Scott Bain's finest hour with that save.
What about McCowan's finest hour, David? This was a lovely ball he played, wasn't it? Searching ball up to Tonecti, who rode the challenge, and then bearing down on Bain. Pretty easy conversion. Nice to see him scoring, though. Yeah.
I think it was a good, a cracking pass by McCowan. I think before McCowan's pass, there had been a sort of little bit of danger from the defence, but we managed to clear it, got it to McCowan. We put a great ball through. I think Henderson, he used to play for us. Another one that didn't cover himself in glory. Probably should have done a lot better than clearing it than just falling in his arse and then pretending he was injured after we'd scored. But no, Tonecti, he took his shot well composed, and did well.
And Scott Arfield, your favourite player, Anthony. Tonecti's obviously done his research, and he must hate the Huns as well, because his celebration was straight out of the Arfield playbook.
I did clock that, and I went, oh, maybe that's I'd be funny if it was, but probably not. But yeah, that's the old salute. Yes.
I'm giving McGregor props for both those things. McGregor was thinking about celebrations recently, and he's told Negron to wind it in, and he told Tonecti, if you score, do that. The fans will love it. So, yeah, that was brilliant. Brilliant to see. Oh, yes, then Callum Osmond apparently came on and reminded us that he's here, cut in. This was the only thing in the highlights, him cutting in and releasing a shot. Now, what do you think Martin O'Neill's inclusion of Callum Osmond, what message does that send, David, to the squad?
I think he's basically saying that we've got a clean sheet. We've got a new manager. You've all got a chance to impress me. You've got as much chance as anyone else. So he was brought into the team based on the potential he had. Obviously to get signed for Celtic. So people thought that there was a player there. I was very surprised that he was brought in. To be honest with you, I didn't think that Shin was particularly bad against Hearts. So I don't know if he was injured. I don't know if he had other options available. But yeah, fair plays. I think it was a bit of a cameo role, and I'm sure we'll be getting all this sort of puppy love and the Osmond songs coming out of the woodwork now. But yeah, fair plays to him.
Definitely a Sean Maloney inclusion. So I don't think Martin O'Neill would know who he is. But yeah, no, it was good to see him get some time, and yeah, that was his one sort of opportunity. But he got involved, and yeah, there wasn't a heap of power behind that shot, but the cut in looked good, and yeah, like I said, I think he's just, when they wanted to have a look at him because we were 4-0 up, like why not, and see what he's made of.
Yeah. All right. Oh, there's your lights gone off, Anthony.
My battery's dead.
Did you see this? I think this is the Hearts and Mirren game. Yeah, the family section. No swearing, please. How successful is that sort of an initiative, David? Can't imagine it's too great.
Yeah. No, it reminds me of, and it's not even, I was in a hotel years and years ago, and the guy accused one of our friends who said, like, I don't want you swearing in front of my wife. And my pal said, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was her turn. But get the shite joke in. But yeah. I mean, I must admit, at the world famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club, my wife is always berating me for. She tells me that I'm the only person in the whole pub that's shouting and swearing, and I'm a disgrace to the hoops. So apologies, wifey.
Okay. Now, Paddy Lavery, I see, is in the house. He'll be delighted that with this recent turn of events, because he's organised a night with Martin O'Neill in April of next year, presumably that he will not still be the manager by then. But I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. This is him celebrating the goal. Oh, there you go.
AI's got a lot to answer for.
Oh, you think that's AI? I thought that was real.
I think so.
All right. Also, Plunge McNugget is mentioning in the comments that he was part of the demonstration last night. Here is a tweet from the Celtic Fans Collective. Thousands made their voices heard loud and clear. Thank you for standing together and for amplifying the message. So I don't know if you've seen any of these pictures, but yeah, quite a lot of people out there. Now, Martin's back, the feel-good factor. It's important that the bigger picture isn't lost in this sort of temporary, uptick in our emotions, isn't it, Anthony?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, we're at home to Falkirk. I mean, it should be a routine. It should be a routine 3 points, but at the moment, obviously, going into the game, nothing's ever guaranteed. But obviously, it gives us a springboard to take us into the cup semi on the weekend. But if we navigate that successfully, then you have to say that on the park, at least, the football was heading in the right direction. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out, and we will be doing a full analysis on the tactical review Monday night. So it's 12:30 Celtic Park time. Little plug for my show.
Brilliant. You plug away.
Actually, yeah. So Paul and I will be back from Melbourne, so we'll probably both be, massively jaundiced and whatnot. But but we'll be there and we'll be up for it. But hopefully talking about a win.
Are you going to do your best PJD and JP impressions talking about Oasis for the first 10 minutes of the Monday night review?
Well, Paul likes a little bit of a, Debbie's rundown of the weekend. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a little bit to talk about. And obviously, depending on how the result is, we might want to talk about it right away, or we might not want to talk about it. So that sometimes has a bearing on that as well. So we will see. But I will be back on the airwaves next Monday night. We'll do that.
Fantastic. Have you anything else to add, David, before we wrap it up and say our farewells?
I think we'll win comfortably. I'm thinking 4-1. I think a lot's been made about the fact that they've managed to get a couple of victories, but by all accounts last night, Hibs were again better than them. Missed a penalty, probably deserved to win. So I'm quite confident about Sunday. Looking forward to it. And bring it on.
Bring it on, it's true. That should be excellent. Yeah, certainly I'm looking forward to watching Celtic again. Hasn't really been the case. What time's the kickoff for us, Anthony?
Well, it's 9 o'clock Bangkok time.
Okay.
Are we on the same? We're in the same time zone, aren't we? Or 10?
You and I are. Yeah.
I think it's 2 p.m. kickoff UK time.
Okay, well that's perfectly doable. So I'll definitely be watching that. Last night's no chance.
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock for us, Dev.
Okay, brilliant. All right, then until next time, we will go out. Thank you very much to everyone in the chat, of course, by the way. Some lively conversations going on there. We brought most of the relevant ones, I think, into the chat, or a fair few of them. So, there's some score predictions coming in. Maybe we should flash those up if anyone's interested. Do I have a score prediction? You've already said 4-1, David. Anthony?
I agree. I'm ready to 2-1. Smell the glove. I agree with that. 2-1 to us.
Yeah. Okay. I'd say 3-2 or something along those lines. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there and we'll go out on the Where is the Ambition video rather than our usual exit. There will be an updated version of this video because the photos are coming in thick and fast. If you want to send yours, get in touch with us. It's easy. Send in your photograph of you holding up the Where is the Ambition picture, message, question with your whereabouts, and we can add it if it's an exciting locale as many of these are. Okay, so we'll see you on the next one. Until then, cheerio, everyone. Bye.
Go.
Instead of this settling for mediocre, imagine what we could be.